also wanted to know, like, I know you worked at Def Jam for a little bit and then decided to leave a few years ago. It seemed like it was a really big turning point in your career. I wanted to know, like what was going through your head, like the day you decided to leave, or, how did you feel?
Well, I'd been lying to myself for a long time. I mean, when I came on board, I was excited. I was overwhelmed. It was the first time I'd ever had a serious position. I mean, I had an executive title at such a young age, and
Right.
I took it on, and I did exactly what, they asked of me. And I probably, I surprised myself with all the work that I had done, just working 12-hour days and working weekends. Right. And it was really intense, and I learned a lot. And I was, in the beginning of it, I was really in love with it. But then, I kind of grew up thinking differently about music and knowing musicians and artists as a kid and knowing them now. And it was just being on the other side was like, pulling the curtain behind, like the Wizard of Oz. It was just a little bit shocking on that end too. And I think being an artist, it was hard to work in a corporate setting. Right. Even though it was, it was really liberal and cool, but it was also still a business at the end of the day. And for me, not only having my schedule taken up by this job, I wasn't able to create anything. And even with my, my title of Director of Creative Services, it was hard to really be that creative. Right. So I just pretty much was unhappy for probably the end of it. And I was lying to myself about how unhappy I was. And, my boss kind of took me aside and was like, is this really what you want to do? She'd been my mentor before that, and she kind of brought me in. But, just having that conversation with her about what it is that I really wanted to do, and her knowing me and knowing all the things that I was capable of and wanted to do, she was basically kind of like, nudging me out of the nest. So, right. It was a hard decision because, leaving a paycheck and leaving all the things that, keep you alive and keep you going, it's hard to kind of let that go. But in hindsight, it was the best thing I could have done because, people always say to me, why you do so many things, like, and you kind of just do it all at once. And once I left that position, it was like, I have to do all this now. Like, I don't want to be, in 10 years, regretting, like, oh, I had the chance to do it. And so I just kind of did everything all at once. So.
Right. Wow. So usually on the show, we put artists on the spot, like make them freestyle or do some trivia. So I just throw a couple questions out there. So it's not that hard, but I just want to know, like, if you had to name 3 artists, like up-and-coming artists that you feel like inspire you and you're excited about in the fields of film, fashion, and music, who would it be? Like one artist for each that's kind of on the cusp.
Okay, for music, it would be Theophilus London, right, who's from Brooklyn. He's actually also Trinidadian, so a lot of his music, it has a kind of Caribbean feel to it. And his influences range from like the Smiths to Masha Montano and Jay-Z. Right. Fashion, that's a tough one. I really like Hell's Bells. Okay. And, as a girl who does a clothing line for girls, directed towards girls, it's cool to see another girl doing the same thing and actually kind of way ahead of what else is going on out there. Right. What was the other topic?
Oh, film.
Film? Let's see, film. That's a tough one too. I'm kind of, I only know like the more established names, I guess.
Right.
But as far as film,
I mean, you could think I'd come back to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to that one.
So the last question we have, like, before we go, a lot of our listeners are college students. So I want to know, like, a lot of people out there might be thinking about pursuing a career in the arts. So if you had one piece of advice to give to some aspiring artists, like, what would it be?
I would say definitely, make sure this is something you want to do. And, if it makes you happy, I think, then that's a sign that this is for you. You definitely don't want to be doing something that makes you unhappy. And, you're never going to really succeed at what it is that you want to do if you're unhappy. So make sure it's something you want to do and something that brings you joy and happiness. And I would also suggest being original. I mean, I know it's hard, there's nothing new under the sun, but, just be true to your vision and your voice and, do what it is that you want to do, and don't worry about what everyone else is doing and trying to fit into that kind of standard. And
Right.
I think that's kind of what keeps me going, is just kind of being true to what it is that I see and what I believe in. And I think that's what maybe separates me from other people. So I think that would work for everyone else too.
Right.